Hey crafty friends, this is Denise with PaperKraftD. Welcome to my 100-day project video series where I finish one quick paper crafting project every day for 100 days. I'm hoping these videos will inspire you to develop your own daily habit to practice your craft. Even if you only have 15 to 20 minutes, these videos are perfect for you. So if you're looking for ideas, inspiration, and motivation, I hope you join in and maybe even craft along with me. So let's get paper crafting. Today I'd like to talk about the use of repetition to create a cohesive body of work. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert, and I'm sure there's some of you out there who know a lot more about this than I do, but I have been practicing this for quite a while, and I do have some tips that I can offer that might help people that are new to this craft, or even people who are experienced who are like, well, it doesn't seem like things really flow, and they don't quite know why or can't put their finger on exactly what isn't working. Okay, so for example, you can use repetition in a single tag, card, page like this. For example, you can see this stamp was stamped 3 separate times. That's an example of using repetition to create a frame for the focal point image. So it draws your attention away from the individual stamps to whatever the focal point image is on your project. So repetition can also be used to create cohesiveness amongst a group of cards. So say I create 10 cards and I want them all to be of a field notes, nature journal type of theme. Okay, so to show that they're all part of the same body of work, they're all part of the same theme, there's a number of cues that I can give. Now, this principle also applies to journals, mini albums, scrapbooks, things like that. So, for example, if you are creating a journal, you probably want to choose a color theme. That's an example of repetition. You use the same colors throughout the journal to show that there's a cohesiveness there. Now, not everything has to be exactly the same color, but if you use a similar color palette on each page, then you can have a highlight of where the focal point should be when you deviate from that color palette. So that's kind of a cue that that's what you should be paying attention to, okay? And that applies for, journals, mini albums, scrapbooking pages. So if you have a scrapbook, you do Project Life or something like that, you have a birthday, all the birthday pages, maybe you might use the same papers, right? The same color theme, the same font, the same stickers, things like that. Then you go to Christmas, you have a different color theme, but all the pages are very similarly designed. So that kind of cues you in to the fact that the birthday is a different event than Christmas. So, that way it's a visual cue that, oh, I'm switching gears now. I'd like to show you some photos of the samples I made for the planner card box. I don't have those anymore. Those are in Colorado at the Elizabeth Craft Design warehouse. But I want to show you them because I think it illustrates my point that I'm making, that even with something like this card box, you can have a cohesive theme, and you can do a set of cards that are in the same theme, and then separate those with visual cues from another set of cards that are in a different theme. Okay, so this theme that I have here is Nature Journal, and you can see that I repeat the color scheme. I use craft, white, greens and blues with some occasional pops of color. I use inks with a dripping pattern on almost all of the cards in this series. I also use some background stamping on. The repetition of color and pattern throughout all my cards makes it easy to identify a particular card as belonging to this series. It creates a sense of cohesiveness and consistency. I repeat textures. I use a lot of fabric and lace throughout these cards. So that is one element of unification. I do a lot of stitching. That's another repetition that will unify and provide cohesiveness. I use shapes. So you can see I'm often repeating rectangles and circles. And finally, I stick to the subject. So if I'm doing a nature journal, I don't add Christmas photos. That way I reinforce the expectations of the viewer and they can trust that the visual cues I've given them are meaningful. Okay, so with that in mind, this week I would like to create a series of cards that we can use for a single theme and will look cohesive together as though they belong together. So I'm going to go through right now all of the elements of what I am going to be using to create this unifying theme amongst all of the cards that I'll be making. I'm going to use the same kind of palette that I used in my samples that I made for the design team. I'm going to use some craft card. I'm going to use white matting. I'm going to use some stamping in antique linen. I use this stamp quite frequently. This is from the Tree of Life stamp and die set, CSD 396. So another thing that I used in these cards was distress inks. And you can see in my samples that almost all of the cards, I believe maybe even all of the cards, have some drips. They have some spray splatter and they have some drips going down them. And that is an example of texture and color together and pattern that is repeated amongst all of the cards. Okay, I use different colors in the samples that I was just showing you, but I think for this, these that I'm going to recreate, I'm going to do them slightly differently, but kind of follow the same formula more or less. Just show you how I created them. I'm going to be using the speckled egg, distress oxide, as well as the walnut stain distress spray. Okay, so I sprayed these out and I really like this kind of muted blue color juxtaposed with this really gorgeous dark rich brown. I just think together they're stunning. They're absolutely stunning. So I really want to play around with that and see where that takes us. Okay, so I have a variety of mats, and most of them are white, but a few of them are in the brown. I'm just going to go ahead and start doing some spraying here. Okay, I am going to get my box, my spray box out. I do not like spraying without my spray box because these sprays will ruin your computer, your desk, anything you have around there. There are things in there that'll get ruined. Okay, and I'm going to use some gloves as well, just so
my hands don't get ridiculously inky.
And I'm going to use a nice flat surface that I can then put my final products on, just so they don't drip more than I want them to. And I'm just going to cover this with just a couple things of deli paper, just so it doesn't ruin the tray. I want to make sure that I stir up, shake my Distress Oxide pretty well. Before we get started, I just want to point out to you that there are, depending on how you spray these, you're going to get different results. Okay, so you can spray the brown first, let it dry, and then spray the blue. And this is kind of the result you're going to get. You can spray the blue first, let it dry, and then spray the brown, and that's the type of result you'll get there. You can spray the brown first, keep it wet, and then spray the blue, and that's the type of result that you'll get. Or you can spray the blue first, while it's still wet, spray the brown, and this is the kind of results you're going to get. So, you can see, with the, if you spray them when they're still wet, no matter which combination you do, you're going to get some mixing of colors, right? You can see in here how the blue and the brown are mixing, and how the blue and brown are mixing here. Now, with some colors of spray, that's exactly what you want. Okay, you might really be looking for that result. I am not looking for these two colors to mix. I want them to be separate. So I'm not going to do that. And then I'm looking at these two, and I notice that you can see here where I sprayed the blue over the Distress spray. This is not a Distress Oxide. This one's just a Distress spray. So it's not permanent when it dries, whereas the oxide is permanent when it's dried. So this reactivated the Distress ink, and you can see, how you get this kind of halo effect here on the side of the drips. I don't want that either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the blue first, let it dry, and then spray some of the brown. Okay, so I just want to give you an explanation for why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. So this is the perfect kind of project for a mass make, because you're spraying, my goal is I'll spray a bunch of the blue, kind of let that dry, and then spray the brown. So if I spray enough blue, by the time I get back to the first one, it should be dry, and then I can spray the brown, so I don't have to bring out my heat gun. So that's kind of what my thought is for this. So just kind of an FYI, that's kind of where I'm going. All right, the other thing that I want to bring out is my water. One of these. Okay, what did I say I was going to do first? The blue. Okay, I'm going to do the blue, and I'm going to alternate going to the left or to the right. You know how I'm going to do these. So this one, I'm just going to, I can add a little bit of water to this, and that helps it run a little bit better, the drip. And you can see I dripped it to there, and then I'm halting it by tilting the paper the other direction. Now I don't want it to start dripping that way. So you can see I'm tilting it until it kind of gets to the point where it's going to start dripping over there. I can start dripping it back this way, like that. But that's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to leave that just like that. And usually when I'm doing the drips, I do two sets of drips. I'll do this one, and then I'll do one over here, maybe a little higher, not exactly the same level. And I usually do this a short drip and this a longer drip. Now, if I'm reversing it, you know, I'll offset it slightly. So this is the midline. I want it just left of center or just right of center. And I'll do exactly the opposite if I'm going on this side. I'll do this shorter one here, down a little lower, and then a longer one on this side, a little higher. I'll show you what I mean. So here's an example. The same card. I'm going to go just to the right of the midline. And I don't want to do it way up top. I want to do it slightly down. And it does help if you add a little bit. Oops, that might have been a little bit too much water. So I'm going to, and there's no rush here, okay? So I'm going to just kind of bend the paper a little bit, and that'll create a little channel that I can start then dripping, because I don't want it to start spreading to the other side. This one's going to go kind of fast because it's got a lot of water in it. Okay, so there, that's pretty much good right there. Yeah, I put a lot of water in that one, more than I normally would. Okay, so I'm just going to put that off to the side. Okay, let's see. There we go, that one looks pretty good. And that one's probably a little too high again. And you can kind of just tap it a little bit to get the drip going. There we go. You see I want more ink over here, so I'll go there. All right, that's looking pretty good. And I'm just going to continue doing this with the rest of the cards. You can see sometimes I'm using a skewer to try to get the drip started. Okay, now see, you see this one has a break right here. So I've got to make sure that I have enough spray below this line to get a good drip going. Ah. Yep, there we go. Okay. Oh, that one dripped right off. That's okay. Okay, and then I've got this one. And let's see, this side I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do the blue one higher. And that dripped off the bottom as well. But not the end of the world. So I really should be cleaning my hands regularly. You can see on these black gloves that I have quite a bit of ink on them. So even though I'm wearing gloves, I can still use a baby wipe to wash my hands off or go to the sink and wash my hands off just to get that extra ink off because I don't want to transfer that ink to the side of the card. Alternatively, I could use tweezers to hold the cards instead of my fingers. So that's another option. Gosh, it's really hard to control these because this is really thick cardstock. All right, so you can see I got my fingerprint here. I did not want that. That's not the look I'm going for. But it's okay, not the end of the world. I'm gonna have to wipe my hands off again or just change my glove. I'm gonna go ahead and dry these because it doesn't look like they're drying naturally, and then I will do the brown. Okay, so I'm just going to take this walnut stain and just kind of, you can make it as dark or as light as you like. Okay. And I do want this to be longer than the other one, so I might just add a little bit more. There we go. So you see, and then I just stopped it. It's much easier to control the drip on this because it's thinner paper. Okay.
I do it on this one. Now see, it's gonna follow that, which I don't want it to do. I want it to have a separate inky thing over here. There we go. So like I got that drip going there now. So that's what I'm going for. There we go. This one, look how pretty that oxide shows up on the craft. It looks so pretty. So I did this one up high. On the other side, I'm going to do both sides of this one. So on the other side, I'm going to do it lower. That is so hard to control. All right. Okay, so I've got this one now. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that gives it the darkness that I want it to have, which is really pretty. And sometimes you'll get it that it goes down like that too. That's fine. What I'll probably end up doing is spraying this blue one again on top to get some more drips like over here. So, or maybe I'll just leave it. I don't know. Sometimes you just, you know, this is a process where you can't control everything. So, and that's sometimes a good thing. Sometimes you get happy accidents, right? So now I have a whole slew of bases to make cards this upcoming week. And they'll all be in the same theme, which is kind of cool. You can see what I came up with here. Now, full disclosure, not all of them turned out great. And I'm trying to analyze why some of them turned out pretty good and others didn't. I really like this one. This is kind of interesting. You notice how this is the one where it dripped down, and it seems like the oxide, the distress oxide, actually lightened that whole thing, which is kind of a cool look. I actually really like that. So pretty pleased with that. Got that one. That one, which I like. This did some weird thing down here, but there's ways to mask that. And got that one, which is pretty cool. I love the way this one turned out. I really love the oxides on these darker cards. All right, so the ones that I did not love quite as much. Okay, so those are the ones I really like. So some of the ones I didn't like so much. Okay, and you know, there might still be ways to use these cards if I cover a lot of this area, but I didn't like, you know, the wicking that this one did. Now, this could be because I added too much water to this one. It could be because this is a distress spray, not a distress oxide. Now you see the distress oxide never did any of that wicking, even when I let it dry naturally. So two things: if you're going to use a distress ink, probably avoid using as much water as you can. And either way, I'd probably go with my heat tool and try to dry it fairly shortly after spraying it, because this is not the look I was going for at all. I'm not pleased with that one. This one did a little bit of that wicking, not quite as much. Maybe I was just being picky with that one. This one, you can see there's, even on this thicker cardstock, there's still quite a bit of wicking. And even when this came down, you remember this is the one where it followed the trail that was there. You can see it did some wicking on either side of this distress oxide, which actually I don't mind the look of that on this darker cardstock. This is thicker, and I think it actually looks kind of cool. So there's ways to, like, mask, that this isn't looking awesome. Like I could, cover up this portion right here, but not really the look I was going for. Same with this one. This one did a lot of wicking right in here, which I'm not totally in love with. Same with this one, and that one, and even that one. But I have enough, definitely, to work with. You can see even some of these aren't, perfect, but they're okay. They're fine. This one made a bunch of stuff down here. I don't mind that, actually. I kind of like that. It's just the drippy part that I didn't like the wicking on. But a good chunk of these, like this one, looks great. I love this one. I think that one turned out really good. This one I love, and I really like these. So yeah, I have enough to work with, so I'm not really concerned about that. And I hope you follow along this upcoming week as we use these bases to make cards to go in our planner card box. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you found some ideas and inspiration to develop your own daily habit and to practice your craft. That is, after all, what the 100-Day Project is all about, that we inspire each other, that we build community, and that we just really get motivated to express ourselves creatively. If you enjoyed today's video, please give this a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I really would love to hear what you're doing and what your plans are for the 100-Day Project, or if you're just enjoying watching everybody's videos, that's okay too. And if you haven't yet subscribed and you enjoy this kind of content, I hope that you do so and that you share my channel with your friends. I will continue posting videos for this 100-Day Project if I get community involvement and people seem to be enjoying these videos. I will continue to do the 100-Day Project regardless, but I just might not post it on social media as frequently if I don't get that kind of involvement and engagement. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Again, this is Denise with PaperKraftD, and craft on.